Greetings and welcome to another training video in the Shadow Church audio video training series. In this video we are going to be discussing the video side of production here with the Mac Pro, the little iMac, well I should say big iMac over here, and all the different screens, our TV output, live camera system, feeding all of our rooms, and just the general video setup here. Currently connected to the Mac, we have four outputs. We have our main primary screen. This is used primarily to manipulate Propresenter. Propresenter is our presentation software that outputs all of the slides, songs, and movies onto the main primary screen and projector on the stage. We have our side screen here, which this is very helpful, where we drag over different programs that we use during the service. One is My DMX, which is our lighting control software. By clicking on these different tiles here, we can change the color of the lights and turn them on and off. And then also on the screen we run Audacity, which is what we use to record the service. We use Spotify to play music during non-service times, before and after service. And then we use Wirecast, which is a video switching software, to power the rear screen here. Essentially what we do is we combine the main, whatever on the primary screen, and then we, on this iMac over here, we bring up a web browser to give us the countdown times for Planning Center Live. Planning Center Live is what we use for the flow of service and the scheduling of all the events. So this gives us essentially a clock, a countdown timer that we put on the bottom of the screen here, and we can use Wirecast to combine those different video outputs and switch it on and off. We will be using Wirecast additionally to perform a live feed setup. There will be an additional video once we have the live internet broadcast feed set up operational, so please stay tuned for that. So let's talk about the back of our Mac Pro here and all of our different physical connections. We currently have two video cards in this Mac Pro. I believe they're 5850s, 5860s. So let's go over the connections real quick. The DVI output here currently is feeding our primary monitor here. The MIDI display port on this video card is going into a dongle converter that goes from MIDI display port to HDMI, and then from HDMI it goes into a converter that converts the HDMI to run over a pair of Category 5 Ethernet cables. The reason for that is HDMI can only go about 25-30 feet before you start having problems. So to run long distances, you have to use these HDMI over Ethernet converters to run your HDMI single long distances. So out of the back, we have the MIDI display port to HDMI, then the HDMI to Ethernet. Those cables run up along the wall here and all the way up to our projector here. And you can see the adapter right there. So out of that adapter, it goes HDMI into the projector. So we are running full 1080 to the front screen. Back to the Mac, we have a second video card, same model, and we're not using the DVI port on that one. The first HDMI, or I should say display port, goes into another display port to HDMI adapter, and then that is what is feeding our side screen here. And then the second display port on this video card goes from a mini display port to VGA, and then the VGA cable is what's running up to our projector that's feeding our rear screen. So at the time of this video, we currently have four video outputs: the main screen, side screen, main projector, and rear projectors. If you haven't already, please watch the initial intro power on video where it instructs on how to turn on the audio system, the camera, how to connect the camera up, which is currently we're using the camera to feed all of our TVs throughout the facility for a live feed system, and just be familiar with how to connect all of those cables based on that video. For this video, out of the camera we have an HDMI feed, and the HDMI feed goes into this 8-way splitter. This takes in one input and then outputs to 8 possible HDMI signals, and out of that 8-way splitter, one of them comes into our little switch box up here. The second connection to this little switch box was the connection for our side screen monitor here. So we go from mini display port to HDMI, HDMI into the switch box, out of the camera feed into the switch box. And the switch box allows us to switch this side monitor back and forth between the live feed from the camera, which is very helpful for adjusting, the zoom and the focus, because the zoom and the focus are manual controlled on the rings up here on the camera. So it's useful to adjust the camera, and then of course we want to continue using it for our main Mac Pro here. Out of the 8-way splitter are multiple HDMI connections, and all those connections go into additionally these HDMI over Ethernet transceivers, and then each one of these transceivers goes to one of the other TVs or the youth room. So we have a TV in the infants, in the preschool, the front lobby, and the conference room. So those 4 TVs are live. Each of those 4 TVs, depending on their HDMI input, can feed our live camera system here. And there's a 5th additional one that's not currently connected, which I think is this guy here, which then goes over into the youth room. Also, on top of the desk here, we have our Ethernet switch, which provides network connectivity back to our telephone room where we have our internet connection. It's very good that we have a hard line, physical gigabit Ethernet, all the way back to the phone room, so we don't have any wireless issues. So then out of the Ethernet, one of the connections goes to our Mac Pro. The second connection then comes over to our iMac. And then the third one, I think this is just used if we ever happen to have a laptop we wanted to hook up here. So this is the way the Mac Pro and the iMac talk to each other for the Wirecast. There's a piece of software called Desktop Presenter that's free with Wirecast that allows you to capture screens as a valid input. So that's how those guys communicate. Out of the back of the Mac Pro is a USB cable, and that USB cable connects to this American DJ lighting DMX controller. Out of the My DMX controller is an XLR cable, or DMX cable, I guess, and then it connects to this wireless transmitter. This wireless transmitter transmits that DMX signal up to the receiver, which is on top of the projector, and then out of that receiver for the DMX, it then connects into the first fixture here. Out of the first fixture, there's another cable that then loops into the next fixture, and they interconnect each other as a serial connection to connect all the lights, and the lights also on the stage, the uplights. Each of these lights has an address, and currently the addresses are set up in a way where the inner 2 fixtures are the same address, so they will pretty much operate the same way in terms of whatever's sent to that address in terms of colors and lighting. Those 2 usually focus on the pastor on the stage. The outer 4, those 2 outer ones and those 2 outer ones, are also in a group or the same address, so they will operate the same. And then the uplights, the 4 different uplights, also have the same address. We will be covering another video just for the DMX software, how the DMX addressing is set up, how you use the My DMX software to control the lights, what all these sliders do down here. We'll have a whole video just on the My DMX system. So that pretty much covers the video output side from our Mac Pro. In addition to our two video cards, we have a Blackmagic Decklink Duo card, which is 2 input or 2 output SDI video ports. We are going to be using that to connect the camera eventually to the Mac Pro directly. So we'll be going from HDMI out of the camera into a HDMI to SDI converter, and then doing that for 2 cameras possibly, and then connecting that to our Mac Pro. We will use the Wirecast software to manipulate those video signals and switch between the 2 cameras and the Propresenter output, which will then eventually feed the video switcher down here to feed all the TVs and then live stream. Once we have that set up, there will be an additional video on just the Wirecast setup and video presentation software for the live streaming. Okay, so let's talk about how the audio system is connected to the Mac. Out of the back of the mixing board, we have the stereo sub-out ports, left and right, and this is essentially a same output that you get from the mains. This is a secondary output. So whatever is coming out of the house speakers is then getting sent towards the computer. We do have control here on the ST sub-out port for the volume output, so we can raise and lower that. Usually we leave that at just straight up. So out of the back of the mixer, there's a audio cable, and that cable then converts from the 1/4 inch out to RCA, and it goes into this ground loop isolator. And this is very nice to clean up the sound, get rid of any of grounding issues. Just gives us a real clean sound and gets rid of noise. Out of this isolator, we then come out of RCA, and it goes underneath, and there is a splitter. And the splitter splits the output of the mixer to 2 places. One comes up to the camera, so that's feeding direct live sound into the camera, which currently we are then sending that sound and video to all of the TVs in the facility. The second output then comes into the back of our Mac for recording. So in the back of the Mac, there's the output and the input. Whoa. And the input to the Mac, the recording, is what we use to record the sermon. So on the Mac we use Audacity. That is set up to record from that line level input, and that's how we record our sermons. Additionally, the output, or speaker out, of the Mac, there is a cable that then connects from the Mac Pro over to the mixing board. So the output from the Mac Pro then comes into channels 23 and 24 left and right on our channel here for our Mac. So any audio that's played from the Mac, we can control the volume to the house speakers through this particular channel. In terms of power on of the system, again, please watch the initial power on video, which will teach you how to power on the audio system. But to power on the Mac, there's just a little button right here that you just push. The Mac is set to automatically turn on at 6 a.m. on Sundays. So when you come in, the Mac should already be logged on, because we set up the Mac so that it'll automatically log on as the Shadow Rock Church user to the Mac. So you shouldn't have to log in. The system should be already booted up, and it should already be syncing Dropbox. Dropbox is what we use to sync all the sermons, video files, and everything. We also then want to power on our iMac, which is usually turned off at the end of the service. That button is just right down here. You just push that, you'll hear the chime, and then this big piece of the machine will power on. This center monitor we usually leave on because the power switch is in a really awkward spot down below here. It goes into power saving mode, which is fine. The side screen, the power button is right here on the right hand side, so usually we'll turn off the side screen. The remotes for the projector, this is the main front projector, this is the rear projector. These will allow you to turn on the two projectors. Once you have all those systems on, cameras on, and our iMac, Mac Pro, and all of our screens are on, that would conclude the power on the initial setup of the getting everything turned on. Okay, we are here now on the Mac Pro, and I just wanted to talk about some of the system settings for the Mac Pro that you should be aware of, just in case you have any issues with the monitor setup or the audio setup. I'm going to go under Preferences here, and we first want to look at the displays. I'm going to gather all the windows, and as you can see, we have our 4 different displays here. Try and get these arranged so we can see them all. So we have our VX2270. This is our main primary screen in the center. We have our HP22BW. That's the side screen. We have our Optima 1080p, which is our main projector. And then we have our Vga Display, which is our rear projector. For the most part, we have these set for best for display, where it pretty much goes to 1080p, except for our VGA, where we have it at this kind of unique 1400 by 1050. The reason why we have this at that specific resolution is to achieve the right size when we display the Wirecast video on that back screen. We've tried smaller and larger, so just be aware that all of the monitors are just set for best for display or automatic, except for VGA, which is at 1400 by 1050. If we look at the arrangement, on our left here is our main screen. Then to the right we have our HP side screen. To the right of that we have our main projector, and then to the right of that we have our rear VGA display. So when you move your mouse starting from the left to the right, it will, kind of scroll through all 4 of these monitors. We want to make sure that there is no mirroring turned on. Mirroring has to be disabled in order for all of these screens to act independently. So if you come in and everything's duplicated, or somehow the Mac has lost its video settings, this is the first thing to check, is to make sure these screens are in order and that mirroring is turned off. Next thing we want to look at is our sound settings. So if we go back to System Preferences, Sound, we want our output to be our main line out, which is our analog output, and then our input is our analog input. On the back of the Mac Pro there are digital audio connections, which we are not currently using. In terms of the output volume, as a standard, we'd like it to be about 75–80%. That allows you to have it at a good volume, but then increase it and decrease it if for some reason the audio engineer is busy doing something and you need to correct the volume. This gives you a little bit of headroom to boost it up if you need to, as opposed to being fully maxed out. We have specifically turned off any feedback, so if you are pressing keys, you don't want to hear the little squeaks and chirps in the main speaker system when you're working on the Mac, so we turn off these feedback effects. Okay, up on top here you'll notice that we have our Dropbox, and Dropbox is a program that syncs everything within a folder up into the cloud, and then any other computer that you have connected your Dropbox or installed Dropbox onto your account, it then downloads and synchronizes everything in that folder. So this is used pretty heavily Is that right? 666 gigs? I don't think that's right. That's probably the whole entire computer. I don't know. That seems pretty high. Anyway, this is where we save our audio sermons when we record them. If we happen to transfer motions or still images, the pastors will upload their sermons in a Dropbox, and then on Sunday mornings, most of the time the sermons are not in Propresenter, so we will find them in here and then we'll add them. Typically, those sermons are usually under Sunday services, sermons, and then the particular series that we're under. And then if it's not in there, let me go back, it would be typically under Pro 5 Exports All and Pro 5 Sunday Services. So here's the sermon for October 26th. The extension that you'll see for Propresenter is PRO5 PLX. This has all of the slides, backgrounds, videos, the whole entire export of that particular slide in one file encapsulated. So the pastor will create his sermon on their laptop, then they'll export that particular presentation, including all the movies and videos, backgrounds, everything that they've created in one file, and then all you do is you just double click on this with Propresenter running, and it automatically imports it into the playlist as a whole nother presentation. So that makes it real easy to transfer entire sermons or songs, things like that, back and forth between machines. So when you come in on a Sunday, the Mac will automatically start at 6 a.m. It'll automatically log in, which that needs to happen in order for Dropbox to sync. So when you come in, you should have this little green check mark up here indicating that Dropbox is synced and all ready to go. We now want to go through just a brief description of our primary applications that we use for a service that we want to get started up and ready for when the service goes to start. The first one is Propresenter. This is software that is wonderful for the displaying of slides, whether they be movies, motion backgrounds, songs, sermon notes, everything, on our main projector screen up on the stage. There will be another video that covers the entire how to run a service on the video side from start to finish, and there will be additional videos with very detailed, in-depth information on Propresenter, Wirecast, my DMX. Right now we're just going to talk about how to get these started and running. Right now I'm remoting into the Mac from my PC at home, and we only have two screens currently on right now. The side screen and the main screen here. So this won't work exactly as if you had both the projectors, the front and rear projectors on, but we'll just go through this as a demonstration. One thing to note in Propresenter is under Preferences, we do define which display is our main display out. So remember how we had our 4 screens? This main screen on the left is our center screen. The screen to the right is our side screen. The third screen is our main projector on the stage, and then the last screen is our rear screen. So by right clicking on here, we can choose which display is our main output. The SD stands for stage display, which we're not using that. So this should never change. This should always be the same. However, if there's ever a problem where something does change, this is where you would go Preferences, Display, make sure that the main output is being sent to the main display projector. By clicking on this little output here, clicking on this toggle output, or by pressing Command 1, you can turn on and off the output screen. Close this. So Propresenter we leave on the main center screen. This is where we do most of our work. Then we'll start up Audacity, Spotify, Wirecast, and my DMX. And all four of those programs we will drag to the right on the right screen. So let me open up Audacity and let me see if I can drag this over onto the right screen. There we go. A little slow here. So we'll drag Audacity over, and then we'll start up Spotify. Switch screens again. Okay, here's Spotify. Now Spotify, I normally will log in under my account here, and it should typically remember the last login as it did here. I didn't have to log in, I automatically logged in as me. And we have a couple different playlists. We have pre-service, post-service, pre-post hard rock service, which you probably should avoid. And then in here somewhere, Pastor Craig had created a playlist that I subscribe to. So here's Lobby Music by Craig. So the pre-service playlist, and we'll go through this a little bit more in detail when we do how to run a service, but pre-service is a little bit more up-tempo. Post-service is a little bit slower tempo for after service. If for some reason you can't log on as me, Pastor Craig has his own Spotify account where we can log on and you can run the Lobby Music playlist from him. I don't think he's subscribed to my two playlists here. I strongly recommend Spotify. It's only like $6 a month for the premium. You can pretty much play any song ever made. It's really a nice service. I really enjoy Spotify. Recommend it highly. But this is what we use to play music. And we usually have it just randomize and repeat. So we just click on one song and it starts playing the music, and then we'll just randomly skip through other songs. Let me switch back to the other screen again. Then we're going to start up Wirecast. Wirecast is kind of a beast of its own. What we use Wirecast for is two things. One is to feed the rear screen, and what we do is we capture the front projector. So anything that's set to the front projector, we are capturing that entire screen at 1080p as a input source. We're also then using that large iMac on the floor to bring up Planning Center Online, opening up Safari web browser, pulling up the clock for that day's service, capturing that screen, and then that acts as another input. We combine the two screens together in layers that then allow us to have that little clock and counter at the bottom of the screen. There's going to be a whole video just on Wirecast, just how to set that up. I'll cover it a little bit in how to run a service, but that's probably the trickiest thing, is Wirecast. The second thing we're using it for, so this is saying that that iMac, which is called Craig Cunningham's MacBook Pro, even though it's an iMac, is not physically on right now, so it can't connect to that source. And right now the main projector screen is off, so it's not showing us anything. But this is Wirecast, or Wirecast. And so we use this to power the rear screen, and we're going to be using this to power all of the live feeds to the TV. We're going to capture one or two cameras as feeds, combine all of that together, send the output out to the TVs, and then We're going to be also live streaming to livestream.com using this software to control all of the video feeds. So this is one of the newest additions to this setup and the most difficult, which again there'll be a whole video just on how to do this. It's not too difficult, just like Propresenter, whatever you click on and you switch, it does. It's not too difficult, but if you've never used it before, there's a little bit of a learning curve on how it works, but have no fear, we'll have a cool video on that as well. Let me switch back. And then the last item we want to start and drag over is my DMX. Now when I click on this, I hope there's nobody at church, because what it does is it automatically starts somewhere. Trying to find it. Here we go. So this will start up the program. It will automatically run the last show that was saved, which we only have one. What do we call it? Sunday Lights. So it will automatically activate blue. I just turned off the lights, and then it'll go to live, so it'll automatically turn on. The way this works is you just click on these different buttons and it automatically switches the lights to that particular scene. These are all different scenes that have been pre-programmed. Can't really see it down here, but these are all the different fixtures. This again is not too intuitive. There will be a whole other video just dedicated on my DMX, the lighting system. But in terms of operating it, it's fairly simple. You just start it and then you click on the buttons here. Blackout will turn off all the lights. These turn all the different colors. And then Craig is the white lights, where it just turns everything to white and illuminates the screen. The lights on the stage with just normal white lights. These are some fun little things to do that have different effects that I created just for some fun. If you happen to run all of these and if you switch to another scene and it doesn't clear previous settings, just black everything out and then switch back to a particular light. This we also drag over onto our right side screen. So usually on that right screen we'll be running these 4 different programs: my DMX, Audacity, Wirecast, and Spotify. So it's real nice. Most of the work that we do is in Propresenter, but it's real nice just to move the mouse over to the right and then operate these individual programs, be able to look over without having to switch, with Command Tab between all the programs. Really makes the operation of the service go much, much nicer. To play a song, you just double click on the song. It'll keep playing until you hit pause down here. To record a sermon, you just press record and it will start recording. To change the lights, you just click on these different scenes and it changes the lights. So all 4 of these programs we do use during the service, but it's nice that we just keep these over on that right screen to run a service. So I'm going to switch back to our main screen here. So that pretty much covers how to get everything started up to the point of running a service. Please stay tuned after this video. I'll be making a whole other video on how to run a service, how to, in basics, operate Propresenter, how to go step by step on a Sunday morning service, what needs to happen, when. Most likely you will need to go to Dropbox and import the pastor's sermons. Usually Sunday mornings, Pastor Devin will update the announcement slides to that week's announcements. Generally on Thursdays for worship team practice, I will come in and add the songs for that Sunday service. Usually for both services on Sunday we sing the same songs. If not, there will be 2 different playlists. and the songs will be formatted, will be in arrangement, and will be ready to go. The way, just a real quick Propresenter tip, is whatever you click on, it goes. So you see this is what would be displaying on the projector and sent to Wirecast. We'll get real in depth on Propresenter, how to edit slides, how to import new songs if they're not in here. We'll go through that on the Propresenter training video, which is very in depth. But for the most part, that's all you need to know in terms of getting all of this video side equipment, the Mac Pro, 2 monitors, 2 projectors, the iMac in the back, how to get everything turned on, and how to start all of the different programs that we use. At this point, we're ready to start a service once we get the pastor's sermon imported into the playlist here. And please stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.